For years, the Mythic Dungeon International was dominated by one team, Echo. Now, after some time away, several of their players are returning under a new banner, Wunderbar, hoping to forge a new dynasty. In today's video, we're going to take a look at their world record plus 20 Cinderbrew Meadery. All talents and builds used by the players can be found via Raider.io in the description below. The dungeon starts with a huge pull. This is very dangerous, but Wunderbar have an ace up their sleeve, with Clix playing Destruction Warlock. Not only does the Warlock boast some of the highest DPS at this high target count, it also brings access to a second Dispel for the dangerous Erupting Infernos cast by the Pyromancers. If you've been looking for more variety in classes and specs played in the MDI, this season is definitely one you should tune in for, as we've implemented a new spec variety rule that has meant we've already seen all of the classes and most of the specs in the game in just the first group weekend. After just 2 trash pulls, Wunderbar pulled a boss, with some more trash. The Warlock's Demonic Gateway is set up to allow them to quickly handle the intermissions, but Wunderbar's quest for efficiency compels them to find even more to do during these intermissions, so now pulls even more trash during each of them. This adds a little bit of danger, but it's very valuable for especially Gingy on the Arcane Mage to have extra targets, because of interactions like Arcane Orb generating more arcane charges, and Arcane Barrage dealing more damage. Throughout this run, you'll often see a green triangle world marker on the ground. Wunderbar use this to indicate where enemies are going to be fought, or bosses are going to be moved, allowing aimed effects like Arcane Orb, and ground-targeted effects like Defile and Rain of Fire to be placed in the right spot, even before the move actually happens. This is an incredibly useful tool. Here's the macro if you want to make one yourself. Vengeance Demon Hunters, like most tanks, can be very vulnerable at the start of a new pull when they're lowest on resources. To combat this, Wunderbar throw a pain suppression on now at the start of this big pull that they've saved a bunch of cooldowns for. The end of this pull is also scary, thanks to Final Sting, so they use the second pain suppression charge to cover those. With that big chunk of enemies dealt with, Wunderbar are done for now with this side of the dungeon, and make use once again of the Warlock's Demonic Gateway to quickly cross back over to the other wing. A Mind Soothe lets them skip another pack before starting the next pull. This pull is incredibly impressive, as Wunderbar fight the pack in a very specific location. This pile of crates intercepts any charge from the careless Hobgoblins, meaning the ranged players don't have to move to avoid those charges, and the Hobgoblin won't run away from the pack. But the big insight Wunderbar have had is that the failed batches will always spawn directly on the tank. So if Now stands in this precise location, the group can duck behind the pillar and line of sight them as they explode to avoid having to swap damage onto them. Even with all this tech, these enemies are pretty tough and can't reasonably be fought on top of bosses or pulled with many other packs, so Wunderbar want to skip as much as possible here. The next patrol is tough to skip, however, so Wunderbar have now pulled the Hobgoblins, which are immune to Mind Soothe, far to one side, imprison the Scientist, and Mind Soothe the other pack. Once the group is through, Now hits the gateway, leaps forward, and Shadow Melds to drop combat. Wunderbar again make use of another set of pre-planned spots to line of sight failed batches and aim reckless deliveries, and then get in combat with IPA. This is another boss with a dangerous magic debuff that applies to 2 players at a time, so Clix again summons an imp to help dispel it, and dramatically reduce the difficulty of the fight. This means most of the danger is now from drops making it to the boss, which Wunderbar prevent by carefully controlling them, using effects like Sigil of Chains to keep them close enough to the boss to get quickly cleaved down, without letting them make contact with the boss, something that did wipe them in previous attempts. After the boss goes down, Wunderbar again use the Warlock Gateway to get quickly back over towards Benk Buzzbee's wing, which they've already cleared a bunch of the trash from. One useful thing to note about this area is that Bazooka has a fairly short range and can be easily avoided by your ranged players. Benk himself can quickly overwhelm you if you're not careful. Wunderbar makes sure to stay in control of the fight by destroying all of the barrels before the next cast by having Whippy, their healer, be in charge of aiming all of the bee haws, while Now makes sure to place the honey marinades on the wall whenever possible to keep the room from getting too polluted. Heading to the final boss, Wunderbar aren't done with cool tech. They use Dominate Mind on one of the Yes Men to keep him from getting promoted and save a bit of time on the last pull. And then Now tags a pack from downstairs and snaps it up to get the last bit of count they need and provide Gingy with extra targets to hit alongside Goldie Baronbottom. This is another fight where Wunderbar make use of the Warlock Imp Dispel to trivialize another magic debuff that's applied to 2 players at a time. With all this great tech and only 1 death in the entire dungeon, Wunderbar were able to time this plus 20 Cinderbrew Meadery with more than 2 minutes left on the clock as they went on to win Group A of the MDI. Make sure to tune in next weekend to watch Group B and see which teams will join Wunderbar and 07 in the global finals. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in Azeroth.